Hello everyone, I'm Jeremiah with Keller Railroad. Today I want to take this time and give you a tour of my layouts that I have. I've only been in this hobby for about 6 years now, and I've really enjoyed everything. I'm still learning so much from this, but I've feel comfortable enough that I've never thought I'd do a YouTube channel or even share with anybody my layout. But I've had a lot of friends come over and they've all been really interested in it, and so I wanted to document a little bit. I've got a bunch of pictures for the starting and stopping of the process, and today I'm going to discuss a few of those things that I've done and share that no matter the space that you have, you can make something work. The biggest thing is my space that I have is actually in my lower family room, so we use this space actually for other things as well. So I have to actually set up my train layout and tear it down. Well, let's take a look at them, see what I have, and hopefully you guys can learn a few things about the process and maybe share some different tricks and tips with me on how I can further my layout as well. I'm always trying to learn and always trying to get some better ideas. So let's go over and check out the next section, and we'll start with this end scale behind me, and let's check it out. This is my Woodland Scenics N-Scale Scenic Ridge Kit layout. This kit has been modified to add this secondary outer track loop, which you'll actually see the Amtrak running on. I added that one in. It is running on an Atlas track, which you can buy for a kit for this. Everything is for the Scenic Ridge N-Scale kit. The buildings that are even in this layout are actually for the Scenic Ridge kit. This was my second layout I've done, and I've never really done a lot with learning how to do certain techniques. And so I figured a kit would be the best thing for me to learn from. As far as doing mountains, rocks, there's a little itty bitty waterfall there that I will actually do some adjusting on. I've learned some newer tricks to make it look a little better. So hopefully I'll get that done here in the near future and be able to try to do that. The buildings, as I said, were in a kit. I ended up using all but one, because since I did modify the layout, this inside loop that the train is running on right now, I had to shrink it up, which actually also caused my building area to shrink up, so I had to get rid of one of the buildings. This layout is a 3-foot by 5-foot layout. It sets on a 30-inch by 5-foot Amazon cheap $50 folding table. It works really, really well. So this whole layout is really mobile. It actually has 1/4-inch plexiglass on the front that I'm using for fascia on it, which is really durable. And as you can see, I've even inset those switches right here are actually the switches for the turnouts, but they are set back in. Same thing with down here on the end. There's a rocker switch that runs as the power switch. Try to get this moved over so you get a better view of that. I am on limited space, so that's the reason why it's hard for me to get the camera moved around in certain locations and get better view. But also, in the same token, that's the reason why I'm showing this, is because even with limited space, you can make this work. On this side over here, I actually have a switch down there, and that actually runs my lights for all the buildings. As you can see, I just recently added this back light for the back door on this building, And I don't have any of these buildings set up to where they're separate as far as separate rooms or anything else. I tried working with that a little bit, but I haven't had much luck with it yet. Another cool feature that I really liked is adding my flag area to that. This building I did add some separation as far as I blocked out some of the windows to make it look like certain rooms are on, certain rooms are not. So this has been a really fun layout. It's always ongoing. I don't have any street signs, markers, or anything like that up yet. That's going to be my next little fun project that I'm going to work with. Trying to get that down and taken care of. This is running on a NCE Power Cab system. Now, I bought the Power Cab first to start out with, and it works really, really well. I'm really impressed with it. Because this is only basically a 2 mainline track setup, which works really well with the Power Cab because you can alternate, you can have 2 main engines running, and it's easy to just hit the recall button on it, and you can get back to your other train while they're both working at the same time. Now, this is a DCC layout. With that NCE setup, I am running a power booster on it, so now the Power Cab is actually running as a Pro Cab. The difference for that, if you haven't heard, NCE is one of the great DCC manufacturers for their operations. The thing with the Pro Cab, though, which is different than the Power Cab, the Power Cab allows everything to be functioning off of right here. There's just this little fascia plate. It has a plug-in on the back side of it. You hook that up, and all the controls, the computer, everything is ran off of this. Well, I decided to add the Smart Booster, which is the S5B Smart Booster, underneath my layout. It's all attached in there to where when I move everything, everything can just come straight out. But what's nice about it is you can actually unplug your Power Cab. The trains will still operate. They will still work their way around the layout, and you do not lose functionality. If this was a Power Cab and you unplugged it, all your trains and everything would stop. But now being used as a Pro Cab, it actually allows you to unplug that. This little holder down here does actually come off. It's just a screw in underneath. So when I go store this actually sits underneath on a shelf in a shed, and everything is buttoned up. All my electronics, everything is in underneath this thing. So all I have to do to tear this thing down is to take the trains off and to unplug the cords. That is it. Everything else on here stays hooked up, stays functioning, and it works really, really well. This has some T-handed or some T-bracing on it for the underside of the layout. So it has its standard board underneath, and then I've got some pine underneath that is actually set out as T-bracing on it to help support it, so that way there's no flex in this layout no matter how I lift it or carry it or anything else. And that was what I wanted to go with. The mountain area was the biggest concern that I wanted to go with. I've never built one before. It was a great design. I really liked it. I added some extra rock faces to it that did not come with the kit. Like I said, I kind of modified this, but it really gave me a good opportunity to learn. Alright, so for the sake of not making this overly noisy with the trains running, most of my trains do have sound to them, but there are times that I just like it to be quiet. So here we go. A lot of my tree work I would really like to redo. Not really redo, but maybe add into it. I did buy some static grass. So in the grass area just ahead of us here, I'd like to add some static grass into that. I've never done that before, so that'll be kind of a new little option here. Again, this front edge here has a 1/4 inch plexiglass on it for the fascia. It holds up really, really well to durability as far as sliding it around. When I take this thing apart at those seams that you can see right here, I actually have a board that goes in between it that I run, and I use them as skids that they actually move around with that. So really well protected while using this. The tunnel was scratch built. There was nothing overly good about it. I just kind of looked at some pictures and said, you know, I want to build it like that. And so here's what I kind of came up with. Works out really, really well. Now the mountain area has just really recently been done again. I'll show some pictures of what it looked like, and this is what it is turning out to look like now. I have this little sidetrack in here. I really kind of like this design of it. It works good. This is the only piece of track that is sectioned off that has separate power. Now I do not have it hooked up separate power yet. It's actually just tied in to the main line right now, but it will be sectioned off eventually. Here, I'm going to turn on my light here to get better video of that. I've added this extension onto the back side. My biggest thing that I had problem with my size was the turns. And as I built this, I did not know about the size of the turns. A lot of trains do run on 18 degree turns, but there are certain locomotives that do not like it. And I had constant derailment up here as it was making that turn. And so I chose to extend this back a little farther, make this mountainous area a little larger, and give these 22 degree turns on here instead. And all my trains that I have now can actually function through them really, really well. And I like that. So here's where the tunnel portal starts for that other sidetrack entrance area. I scratch built this entire thing, just kind of made it up, decided I really liked the look of it, and I use this to hold one of my steam locomotives so it can stay hidden, but yet when I want to run it, I can. Down here through the sides. I do have crossing guards. Those crossing guards do work. We'll get those turned up here in just a little bit. The station is a tribute to a station that's within about an hour and a half nearby us. It is another Walther's kit as well. The only thing I have not added in here, which will actually go right in that grassed area right there, is the City Hall. And so I will work on that next. The fire station's kind of a big hit right here. I am actual volunteer firefighter. And so I wanted to have that on there just to pay homage. Little country store, which we have those, definitely grew up around those. Now I've always liked the design of the CSX trains. I've seen one or two the entire time that I've been doing rail fanning, but I don't see them a lot in my area. So Iowa Interstate is the biggest one. Santa Fe, I've seen a couple on the BNSF line, but not not a lot. A lot of BNSF, and then of course I've got a Union Pacific back in there. A lot of those are up north as well. So so this is my panel that I created for running my turnouts. So everything is just a touch button deal. So as we get kind of zoom in here, hopefully you can see this a little better. Let's turn off that light, make it a little easier. You can kind of see this little button, and hopefully you can hear that, but it's just a snap, shows it that it's red, that it's actually turned on, and then it switches back to yellow when it's off. So that's how I actually run my switches. Works out really well to me. Down below here I've got a couple program tracks which aren't powered or have nothing on them right at this particular moment, but I can do my N scale and my HO scale with that. This is my next part. I want to design this differently. But when I pack this up, this thing has to come completely apart, go into a tote, and so it just has a couple cords that are hooked up by clips, and to take those out and get that done. So I'm really wanting to kind of redesign that, make it a little bit better, easier to manage. And all the switches are actually hidden underneath the layout, so it's harder to see those, but they're actually in behind the fascia part. So to catch those, and so now I've turned on my lights to the buildings. Is it very functional for people that want to come see it for the first time? No. But I wanted something that I didn't have a full fascia cluttered, and so when I move my train layout, I wanted to be able to make sure that I've got things out of the way and they do not get hit. And I actually have the crossing guards. No sound with those or anything else. Not ran on sensors or anything. I am looking at that. I would really like to be able to have some kind of sensor layout on there. But with it running as quickly in a circle as it does, I don't think it would really get much of a chance to turn off. So I don't know that that's going to be a priority for me to change out. People are the next thing that I want to add to this layout. That's going to be my biggest thing that I want to work on, adding people into it. I've added just a couple people in on my building of my, I'm not going to be able to zoom in quick enough or to catch those. There are some people inside standing on the station layout, but none of the other ones have people in them. I just put lighting in on it and curtains up, and that's kind of been it. On the storefront sections, I've taken some stores pictures from online, cropped them down really small, and then added them into the layout so it looked more realistic. Now, none of this layout was done with video ahead of time. I never had any desire to do any kind of video showcasing my building of this layout or anything else. So this is kind of, I took a bunch of pictures, so I'm going to share those with you.
different aspects of it, different processes of it. And you can see how I've built the frame, how I attach the pieces together, how they come apart. Let's see if I can't get down underneath here just a little bit here. Well, this will be a kind of a funky little side view, but you can see the wiring that's underneath. So here's a junction point right here. This is where one of the seams come together. So I've got connectors that I've attached that carry the power over. This does not have as many drop leads to the track as I would like. After learning a little bit more about blocks as far as for trains and everything else, I realized I wish I would have added a little bit more, and I can always go back through. It's not overly hard to do, especially with this kind of layout, because I mean, I can take this thing apart and lift up on the edge and have complete access to it. So all of my scenery is glued down, and so when it sits in its storage, this is actually on its side. So everything is glued, nothing falls off. The only thing that I have to do every once in a while is occasionally come back through and rework a little bit of the clumpage on the trees and stuff to make them hold up a little better. But for the most part, this works out great. So anyway, here's my HO scale. Hope you enjoyed it. Well, here it is. Last but not least, my HO inspired Polar Express looping around the Christmas tree layout. So we've had this little small 3-foot Christmas tree, sits in a little itty bitty basket for years now, and I thought, you know what would be great if we could kind of just put the Polar Express train that we have and make it go around that. I added an extra outside loop to this because I also have a fire department inspired train that I will run around this thing as well. So let's take a quick little peek and see kind of the different aspects, some of the stuff that I've done so far. The loop portion of it underneath the tunnel is already done. It's ballasted, it's glued down, it's not going to go anywhere. So that part is set in stationary where it's at. As you can see from this front edge, by adding this extra loop, originally I wanted to keep this at right at 4 foot by 4 foot square. Now it's more like 51 by a 50-inch square. But I wanted to make sure that this would fit directly underneath the pool table without the tree on it. And it would give it just enough space to move out. It doesn't take up a lot of extra space, but it's something that we could really show for our Christmas time. This will all be a snow field with some mountainous rock facings, like right in here where it comes up. I'm going to definitely rock face those. The rest of it's really going to be covered in snow. We'll do some lighted Christmas trees out on this thing, and probably put some like skiers and stuff like that. Just really make this kind of a fun, whimsical layout, and that's really what I'm shooting for. Other than that, the tree portion of this, you can kind of see there the woodwork that's in underneath. I made this little basket area so the tree actually just pulls up and it's straight out. And so when this thing is not in use, on top of this, I'll actually custom build a little cap that goes over it, and it'll be just a white cap, and it'll kind of make it finish out like it's a full mountain area in there. All of my electronics, especially for the tree area, are going to go up and inside that box. Those two braces down underneath are actually what hold the tree up above, and then all the electronics, cords and everything else will fit in underneath that and plug in. And then I will add a plug-in on one of the sides that will take a standard extension cord plug-in for it, like what you would see on computer power supplies and everything else, and then just plug that into the wall. I'm going to add screw terminal plate on the edge, which I am looking for ideas. So if you happen to know of a screw terminal plate, and what I mean by that is I need a plate that would have like 4 different screw terminals on it, that I can run 4 wires off the backside, and they are going to run my DCC or DC, because the outside loop will have to be DC ran, because that fire train is only DC. But I want to set that on the side so that way no matter what controllers I'm running, whether this one I'm thinking I'd like to add Digitracks to it, but no matter what I'm running, I can just plug it in and run it that way. So on the face of this instead. Let's take a look at the other side of it here real quick. As you can kind of see through this, it's just got a basic frame structure on it. It's nothing major. It's got that center hole in there. That's where all the wiring is going to go in. This is not built up as deep as my other ones are. My other ones are about 3 inches or so on their framing as far as the HO and the N scale main layouts are. This one I wanted a little bit lighter. It's still really rigid. There's not a lot of extra track work to it. There's not going to be a lot of scenery on it. There's just not a lot of things to it that I need to worry about that extra flex. And by the time that I add the plaster cloth to it, I think it will create up enough. So I've got 3 different lead lines coming in on here. The 2 main ones that you can see right there, and then there's a 3rd one right over there as well. So all 3 of those lines run for the track. 2 of them run for the double track, or the double loop, I would say, and then 1 just runs the outside loop. It's only a little over 10 feet in length for that outside loop, so I really wasn't concerned with trying to get an extra lead on that one. But I wanted to make sure it was in underneath the tunnel as far as holding on to that, and if I need to add another one, I can certainly do it, but I think I'll be fine without it for right now. I know that there are several people that would say otherwise, you need to add and this and that, and I've seen some people add stuff as minimum as every 4 feet. I've seen people that have added every 10 feet. My main track on my HO scale, it's about every 10 before it hits a loop or a drop line where it makes connection to have extra power to it. It's stretching for the amount of power that it needs, but this should be fairly simple, not running multiple trains on it or anything else, so I expect that this would do fairly good. So this will be a family affair. I've got a boy that's really interested in trying to help out, so we're looking forward to getting into doing this one, and so we'll hopefully have a lot more videos showing with this, but this is my little HO scale Polar Express Christmas tree layout that we're working on. I hope this video was informative to you. If you liked it, please hit the like button. Subscribe. I'm hoping to do several other videos in the future. Thank you again for watching, and have a great day.